Hey guys, what is going on? It is Brook, as you may have guessed, or as you may know me sometimes as the Undead DM. And in today's episode of Brook Rants, I had a thought that in my previous videos on what I would do to fix the martial classes in 5th edition and the resources video that came out yesterday, I didn't really go into a lot of depth. So, in this episode, I'm going to go over my ideas in terms of what I would do to fix a martial that, though is very strong in terms of the martials, and it is by far one of the strongest martials when optimized in a certain way. Not a lot of people understand how to make a system similar to a Battle Master, but not a carbon copy. So I'm just going to walk you through my process as to how I give martials a unique system. So, particularly I'm going to focus on the monk, as that is the one I'm currently working on right now. You see, initially what I did before, as I explained in the resources video, was I just took the Battle Master maneuver system and gave it to every other class and expected that to be okay. But after some communication with Fade Shock, Foxtail Foundry, as well as Cybrock of Cybrock Opinions, I was kind of led to believe that's not really the best solution, and that there should be more uniqueness between the martials as opposed to just being Battle Master but reflavored. And so, with the monk, what I've actually done is I've done something that Cybrock recommended. I actually suggested it, and then he expanded upon my idea with the monk, because initially what the monk's idea is that they keep key, but the key, instead of it being one big pool you pull from, and you expend it and you get them back on a long rest, it was going to be a resource that you can gain throughout the fight and expend for the abilities. Similar to how the Battle Master does it, except the Battle Master doesn't have a way to recover dice outside of a short or long rest. But in this instance, it would be like if the monk hit with an unarmed strike, they would get a key point back. As just an example. It's not an actual mechanic, that's just how I'm explaining how that would work. After talking with Fade and Cybrock, Cybrock recommended, well, I really like the system that I have, which Cybrock stated was he had made a system for monks in his own system, Legends and Lore, which the monk has two different kinds of key. There's yin key and there's yang key, and instead of expending key, as in you have an amount of key and you get rid of it until a long rest and it's unusable, what actually happens is you swap between them. So you have 2 yin and 2 yang, and whenever you expend quote unquote a key, instead of removing it from the sheet, you just move it over to the other side. So if you want to use Flurry of Blows and you expend a key point, instead of expending it and getting rid of it until the next long rest, you move it over from the yin to the yang, or vice versa. So you would have 1 and 3. And I did like that system, and I actually implemented it into my monk rework. And there's a lot more that's still going into it, where there's these things called kata, which are movements that kind of go along with the training of martial arts. And they are the form of Battle Master maneuver, where you can expend any chakra, as they're called now. And whenever you expend chakra, you get to do the baseline kata, but some kata have a baseline ability, and then they have an additional feature that gets added on based on which chakra you use to expend it. So, for instance, there is Patient Defense, where not Patient Defense, I apologize. Step of the Wind. Step of the Wind has no baseline effect, but you get a benefit based on which chakra you use. So if you use a yin key, you get the disengage action. And if you use the yang key, you get the dash action. And if you use an additional chakra point, you basically gain the opposite effect. So if you used a yang chakra, you get the dash action, but if you expend 2 yang chakra, you get the dash and disengage option, but you still have to expend 2 chakra to use it. Which I think is a perfectly balanced system. It's a perfectly fair system, in my opinion. And then an idea that I had for fighters is that they're meant to be the up front. They're meant to be the defenders. And so I'm actually kind of reworking both the barbarian and the monk, or the barbarian and the fighter, as well as working on the monk, so that they kind of fit their roles, where the barbarian is going to be more of a striker class. It's going to still have some damage reduction, and it's still going to have some tanking abilities, but that's mostly going to be put onto the fighter now. And so the fighter is going to have benefits that help it stay in the front, make sure nobody can get past them, and make sure the barbarian can do what he needs to do. And how I plan on doing that is I plan on changing the rage mechanic from rage and rage points to rage and fury. And fury is very similar to, if any of you have ever played League of Legends, it's similar to the fury mechanic that Tryndamere has, where he doesn't expend anything to use his abilities, but the more he uses his abilities, the more angry he gets. And so the angrier he gets, the more powerful some of his abilities are, and more specifically, his ultimate lasts for the entire duration. So instead of a barbarian entering rage and getting all of his rage points, he's going to enter rage, and he's going to start off with 1 fury point. And then for every round that passes, he gets an additional fury point, and every time he deals damage, he gets an additional fury point up to a certain degree. And then he can expend these fury points at any time to do an ability, and then they're gone until he can regain more. And then all fury points are lost upon exiting combat. But in addition to this, rage will also be an ability that you can activate outside of combat, and you get an amount of fury equal to however long the rage lasts, and you can use those fury points however you want. So in my instance, the rage would last for 1 minute, so since you gain 1 every round, you would get up to a maximum of 10 fury points that you can spend out of combat, which some of their abilities will be more damage orientated, so smashing objects, opening things, lifting heavy objects, throwing things. There'll be a lot of stuff like that where there'll be combat abilities that you can realistically use out of combat. And also, rage doesn't expend anything. You just can do rage now. There's no amount of rages per day. You could just do it. And for fighter, instead of it being Battlemaster maneuvers with maneuvers and maneuver dice, it's actually going to be based on what I like to call the stamina system. So the fighter gets an amount of stamina, and the stamina points can be used to use certain abilities like the Battlemaster can, except your stamina is lost over the course of a combat encounter, and you get all your stamina back whenever you take a short rest. Or maybe long rest, I haven't quite decided. So you gain all of it back on a long rest and half on a short rest, or you gain all of it on a short rest. I haven't quite solidified anything yet. But essentially, you're going to have these stamina, and for the entire time you have stamina, you basically don't expend anything. Your stamina, you just say, I'm using this ability, and I take 1 stamina point off. All abilities except for really late tier abilities like level 14 to 20, they'll expend more stamina, but basically the more powerful it is, the more stamina you'll have to use. And up to a point where you lose all your stamina, you'll be just fine. But the moment you lose your stamina, you can choose to gain more stamina by using your second wind, in which you'll gain half your stamina back. And certain other abilities that use stamina will allow you to gain additional uses or do something that will allow you to. And in addition to this, anytime you gain any sort of healing benefit, like if a healer decides to use a healing spell on you, or somebody feeds you a potion, you gain stamina points back. Because it's a magical effect. It should be able to restore you. So, it's very advantageous for the cleric or whoever's using the healing spells now to heal the fighter in the midst of combat, because they'll be able to do more protecting. It kind of buffs the fighter and buffs healing in combat specifically for the fighter, because the fighter will have more things to do. And finally, the rogue is a little bit trickier. It's basically going to have a similar system to the barbarian where they have to gain something, but it's going to be trickier. So I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I'm thinking something like a combo system, like Cybrock recommended or suggested, was like a combo system where every time you hit with an attack, you gain a combo ability, like a combo string, like you do in a fighting game. And then at the end of your turn, depending on how many attacks you were able to land in quick succession, you get a certain number of, you get a certain combo chain number, and you can use any maneuver that the rogue has that is below the number without expending your combo. But at the start of your turn, your combo automatically goes down by 1, and so you have to keep your combo up. So it really incentivizes rogues as the strikers who built a lot of damage and build to hit a lot more frequently, so this way they can keep their combo going. And I do like all these suggestions. They are very nice. They are very interesting, they're unique, they're distinct from one another. It's a very overall nice thing to have. If you guys haven't already, I would definitely recommend joining some kind of optimization community's Discord server. Personally, obviously, I would recommend the Pack Tactics server. They are full of good people. They are just full of fantastic people who are more than willing to help you. But yeah, I think that's it. Hopefully soon, once I get more of my homebrew more completed and up to what I deem a respectable playtest area, I will hopefully be putting it onto the Foxtail Foundry's website. I'll keep you guys posted on that. So, latest.